Hi guys, it's Forgetful Scholar, and this week we're going to chat about 2 books. 1.5 books. A book and a novella. Okay. Well, that was quick. So, that's kind of what this week felt like. So, first book I'm going to talk about is, she's an old favorite of this channel, and it's a sci-fi monster alien, paranormal, contemporary, but few sci-fi. I sort of said sci-fi, right? Novella, romance. So, yes, it's a Michele Mills book. Yep, you got it. Stranded with an Alien Vampire, Marooned for a Night, Book 3 by Michele Mills. So this is a series of books, different authors wrote different books in this series. I read this one first because I know Michele Mills. I might check out the other ones, see if I could find a new author, which is always exciting. So this I gave a 3-star because it's not my favorite from her. So basically, it's trapped in a cabin in a snowstorm trope. Why is it always a cabin? Why are they always trapped in a cabin? So the female lead, she's human. Her name is Sabine. She works at a very fancy smancy ski resort on Earth. And the alien name is Hale Bloodworth. He's the alien vampire. And he's come to Earth to start up trade negotiations. And when he ended up in the Sky Mountain town, he went into a blood frenzy. So for their race, blood frenzies is usually when they smell their true mate, right? They didn't even think humans were compatible, so he booked a cabin isolated in the woods during a snowstorm to kind of deal with it, kind of like, wait till it passes kind of thing. Sabine is a waitress at the Sky Mountain Ski Lodge, and she needed a dang break. So she took this vacation last year by herself, and she rebooked it last year. So there was a mistake with the booking, and when they get there, the snowstorm hits. And I've never been to Montana, but like it was a sudden freeze, which I've heard about, but like super dramatic in this book, and I kind of loved it, right? So what I like about Michele Mills writing is that they're always insta-lust, but something comes along and like puts on the brakes, so they actually like talk, communicate, and get to know each other, and then they do the dirty, you know what I mean? So this is a 75-page novella. I had fun. It was a nice kind of mindless read. Not saying that it wasn't good. I enjoyed myself, but I needed it after the book I'm going to talk about later. Why it's 3 stars? Because it was a little repetitive, like in the beginning, and it's not even that long of a book, so I was surprised, because usually in Michele Mills, I don't find her writing repetitive, but both of them kept talking over and over again about his blood frenzy, how he mates for life, how when they do it, she's going to get pregnant. Doesn't matter any human contraceptives. They mate for life, and humans don't mate for life. Like this conversation, I felt like it happened like 5 times. And I was just like, damn, that's kind of repetitive, especially for Michele Mills. Now, Hale, broody vampire, very fun. He explained the difference between legends and what he is, because his species called Corn with a K, and I kept thinking of the metal band, if you know, you know. And I was just like, every time I read that species name, a Corn song popped into my head, so that was pretty enjoyable. Corn song for like the 2000s, popped in my head, and I was just like, okay. I was like, wonder if she, picked that on purpose. Anyway, he's gorgeous, and the moment she sees him, she's like, hello, and then she's like, wait a minute, that's not like me, calm down, you know what I mean? So what I didn't like about it was repetitive. What I liked about it, I liked Hale. She does this, her typical romantic male leads are, strong, silent types that are very protective. That's kind of like her base. And then from there, sometimes they shift a little bit, but that's her, and she's good at it. So he was fun. I like Sabine. I for some reason, I love that she was like a knitter. I admire people who could do fiber arts. I just can't. My hands just don't they just don't, you know? They just don't. So I'm always impressed, you know, when people could do knitting and crocheting and things like that. Cause like my hands, it's sort of like, French braid. Like I could French braid my hair. I could French braid my friends, like someone else's hair. But if I'm looking in the mirror and trying to French braid, my hands are like, you know, it just, something doesn't translate for me. So I really like that she was a knitter. I like that she was a waitress, because Michele Mills doesn't really, most of her women are like high powered jobs. So I kind of like the little change of pace. And I like that she had a family, because a lot of these sci-fi romances, one of the characters doesn't have family, so they can leave their world completely and not have to worry about it. No, she's got a family, but like they're all have families, like her siblings all have families of their own, which happens, and they're, you know, live in different states, so they don't see each other as much. Happens, you know what I mean? So I get that. So, you know, that was nice. It wasn't like she was, you know, no ties to Earth. She still has a lot of ties to Earth. So like, you know, compromise, make that work. Again, 75 pages. So we just assume with the happy ending, they're going to make it work, right? It was a fun book. It was fun. Usually with Michele Mills, even if it's not my favorite book, I have a fun ride. Except that one book she wrote where the guy was secretly in that same house as the main girl, and the main girl didn't know about it, and he was there for 6 months. That one's just batshit crazy. That one's batshit crazy. But the rest of them, even if they're not my favorite, like this wasn't my favorite, but I had fun. And I was just looking for a quick, easy, fun read, because the book I'm going to talk about next, like, took a lot of brain power for me. So I enjoyed myself. 3 stars. I might check out the rest of the authors in the series. Let's see. Maybe I'll find someone new, maybe not. But the thing with Michele Mills is that I always enjoy her writing, because you could tell, somehow you could just tell she's having fun. She's enjoying herself. She, you know, these little tiny jokes, you know, she puts them on purpose. She doesn't mind getting, like, you know, she's joking with you. There's something jovial and entertaining and light about her writing. Like, you can just tell that she's having fun, and that translates, and I love that, you know what I mean? So for the next book, I'm not going to pronounce this right. I am so sorry. The Corfe Castle Murders, Dorset Crime Book 1 by Rachel McLean. I don't know if I pronounced the castle correctly. I'm so sorry. So this isn't a cozy mystery. I don't think it's classified as such. I think it's just like a mystery and like a crime procedural. So we follow Leslie, and she is the new, and it's in England, and she's the new DCI. So Detective Chief Inspector of this tiny little town of Dorset. So this one took a lot of, not brain power, but like I was concentrating, because there's a lot of tiny hints, a lot of tiny clues. I really enjoyed the mystery. I had so much fun with the suspense of it. I was there in it for the whole time. So this is like a 4-star for me. And I had a great time. It really reminded me of Midsummer Murders, the BBC, I think it's on Acorn now. I don't know. The British show, it's like 32 seasons. Yes, I've seen from season 1 on. I've seen all seasons. Now it's switched to Acorn, and I'm like, I don't know if I want another subscription, you know, just for one show. So I don't know. I'm debating. So it kind of reminded me of that, except Detective Barnaby in that show. In this show, she's woman. You know what I mean? So kind of had that kind of feel to it. I'm going to say what I didn't like up front, and then we're going to get to the rest of it and try not to do spoilers. So I didn't like how many different POVs. There was a lot of different random POVs, and sometimes there was just a POV just for one part of, like, one chapter, and that was it. We never get their POVs again. That was a lot. I get why, especially with, like, the person who found the dead body, her POV we get a bit, and then the victim's wife, we get her POV the bit. I think that's the part that got me a little bit, because I'm sorry, but her POV was really boring. And I get it, it's supposed to like muddy the waters of the investigation, because real investigations are complicated and, you know, go all over the place, and it's not clear cut like a book or a TV show. Like, I get it. I get it. But this is a book, and adding her POV just, I found it so boring. I found her POV so boring. There was no part of me that like latched on to that she might be the murderer. You know what I mean? Because it was boring. And then like her pushy sister, and that hadn't like went nowhere. It was just like a weird kind of POV. I don't think we needed it. So that's why it's 4 stars for me personally. I think it was too many POVs, because I get it. They wanted it to be messy like a real investigation, but this is a book. So it just kind of slogged a little bit in those parts. The rest of it, I had so much fun. So the first paragraph, like, we got who Lindsay is. Like, the first page, we got who she is. She is a foul-mouthed, tough cookie that takes no nonsense and is by the book. And I love her, right? Her daughter, Sharon, super sweet. I like their relationship, the banter, everything was super cute. She was moved to Dorset from, I think, Birmingham. We find out later it's because she was injured, and this is supposed to be like a slower pace. But like, even before she kind of starts the day before her first day, there's a murder, and she's having tea, and like, so the girl finds the body at a dig site. She screams. Leslie and her daughter were having tea and heard her screaming and went to help. You know what I mean? And she wasn't pushing it off because she didn't start yet. Nothing like that. Found out who she was immediately. Love her. Loved her. You know? And I like that she's like, we follow the evidence. You might have a hunch, but we follow the evidence. And you don't make the evidence fit your hunch. You make your hunch, you follow the evidence, right? And if the evidence doesn't follow your hunch, you leave it behind. Like, so nice to see that. You know what I mean? So the murder was fascinating. There was a lot of, who done it? I don't know who, maybe it's this person, maybe that person. And I enjoyed myself. And then later on, when you find out who did it and you look back on it, like, the clues were perfectly laid out, perfectly lined up, and it was great. So I love that. And I don't want to give anything of the mystery because I was like, it's hard to put it down. I was so invested in the mystery, right? I like Lindsay, and we get who her motley crew of officers are. And remember, she just moved here, right? So we got the crime scene person. I like her. I like the 2 people she works with, even though we don't get to see them a lot, but by the descriptions and how they interact with her and how they interact with the sergeant, who I will talk about in a second, I really like them. You know what I mean? We got the 2 junior detectives, I guess. One's very ambitious and wants to make a good impression. Fair enough. The other one is super self-conscious that he's been in that job for 8 years with no promotion. Fair enough. And he kind of follows the sergeant maybe a little too much. Fair enough. I've been saying fair enough long. I'm going to try to stop saying fair enough. The sergeant. There is no world where you were supposed to like the sergeant. In the end, they figure out like a way to work together with compromise, because this is the real world. And, well, it's not the real world, but in the real world, you're not going to love every person you work with. You're just not. And you're an adult, and you're expected to compromise and find ways to work with each other. So I like that they had that at the end. It showed growth for both of them, too, because, Leslie was kind of like, he's very religious. So when she's like blasphemed, he got really upset. So she's like, okay, instead of blaspheming, I'll just say like shit or bloody or whatever. So like she kind of compromised on that, which I thought was okay, especially since like she's, in her 40s and, you're gonna police her language. Like if she's like a 13-year-old girl, I don't think so. You know what I mean? The sergeant was, chauvinistic, closed-minded, hot-tempered. Like, it was, and he wasn't even a good cop. Like, I was at least in this book, he didn't seem like a good cop to me, because he had hunches that had nothing to do with the evidence and just based on his own personal dislike of the witness. And then, like, he completely disregarded a possible suspect because he wore a cross, as if that just makes him like a good person automatically. It doesn't, you know. And like, I liked how I liked that Leslie personally stuck through. It wasn't like a different person took over, right? But she's like, follow the evidence. We build evidence. We build a case on evidence. I don't care if he good. I don't care if he went to the same church as you. You build you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So I really like that. On the other side, it was a little disturbing that she had around a sergeant who's probably like 20 years in, that you have to follow evidence to build a case. Like, that was a little disturbing. And that kind of showed me all I need to know about him, right? So, like, he's very religious and very old-fashioned, misogynistic. So the young girl that finds the dead body, turns out her and the dead... This is a little bit of spoiler, but this is, like, why he was convinced she was the murderer. Maybe she is, maybe she's not. I'm not going to say one way or the other. Because the case wasn't built on his hunches and assumptions. It was built on the evidence. So I'm not going to say if he was right or wrong or whatever, you know. Or if he was a little right, a little wrong, you know. He basically judged her because she found the body, which is okay. And also because her and the victim were having an affair, despite the fact that he didn't have any bad thoughts about the victim, who was the married man having an affair with the younger girl, who apparently always had an affair every time he went to a dig site. Like, all right, you piece of shit. And then one suspect, he completely was like, oh, he's a good guy. He didn't do it because he wore a cross. And she's like, investigate him. And it turns out, because like the witness told her friend that the guy he completely disregarded as a possible suspect assaulted her. And the sergeant completely like, no, he wouldn't do that. He's a Christian. It's like, evil could come in all faiths, guy. All faiths. Anyway, turns out he has a history of sexual assault. And so, you know what I mean? Like, he just completely, his own biases just kept getting in the way. And there was no way you were supposed to like him. Like, absolutely not. He was so frustrating, but he was supposed to be. So it was really good writing that way. And the person's job, she kind of stepped into, she thought he retired. Turned out he retired early when he was in his 50s. And unalived himself. And she doesn't believe it. You know, she thinks something fishy. So I think that's the setup for the next book. I enjoyed myself. I think I'm going to continue with this. It's definitely not a cozy mystery, but I had fun. There are just so many clues, you know, to sift through, and I was paying attention. So it was nice to have like a fun, mindless, romantic novella afterwards. So that was my week. I don't want to, but it's time for me to get back to the real world. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.